two concerns. Was one, you did have a storm approaching. We weren't sure what track that was going to take. We did not want to see any type of problems with that building impeding the search. So that was one of the impetuses. The other thing is the place that was, the pile that was closest to the remaining structure was effectively inaccessible by our search and rescue people. And so when I went out there this morning, of course, the whole building's now down. They were on that pile that had been difficult for them to access, and so they're making a lot of progress with the search effort in that part. When they drew this up and told me what was going to happen, obviously the Miami-Dade made the final call. We were supportive of it. We funded it at the state level. They explained to me how it was going to happen. It would just basically fall down in place. And lo and behold, it fell down in place. If you look around there was not a lot of debris, even right after it coming down. You could still drive a vehicle down the road. And then now, you wouldn't have even known, if you had known that was there, that something had just came down within the last day. So I think it was a good effort. I think it was the right thing to do. And I think it will help us move forward unimpeded and really be able to get the job done for the families, for the community of Surfside, for Miami-Dade, and for the state of Florida. We are, at least in terms of the Surfside with this Storm Elsa, the news is pretty good, pretty positive. They continue the 11 a.m. update for the National Hurricane Center advisory, moved it further west. So I will be signing a revised executive order later today, and we will likely be removing Miami-Dade from the affected counties. We will likely be removing DeSoto and Hardy, who are interior Florida, but in the southern part of the state, we'll likely remove them. And that's because the track is pushing it further out into the Gulf of Mexico. On the other hand, we're going to have to add a lot of counties in the northern part of the state, particularly in the Big Bend region. So you're looking at counties like that we had in there north of places like Dixie and Levy County, and then also some interior counties. So we're working with the meteorologists. We're working on that, but we will have that done very soon. So the impact, the landfall impact of this storm is likely to be north of Tampa Bay and probably even north of Citrus County at this point. And again, they're going to continue to monitor the track. It's going to start passing over Cuba today. And once it gets on the other side of Cuba, we'll have an even better idea of what the track looks like. But our plan is the same. We understand that this is just part of living in Florida. We are reminding people, just if you do have power outages, and we do anticipate some power outages, if you do have those power outages and you're using a generator, please make sure that generator is exhausting outside your home and outside your garage. If that is inside a garage or inside a home, you will have carbon monoxide poisoning, and that's caused more people have passed away in Florida in the last 4 years from carbon monoxide poisoning responding to a power outage than from direct impacts of the storm. So just be smart, understand that that's a risk, and then just listen to folks on your local community about if there is a need to do any type of evacuations. We don't anticipate the need for any type of widespread evacuations based on this storm. It's going to be a strong tropical storm. If you are in certain areas, you may have a local emergency manager recommend an evacuation. And if that's the case, then heed that. But I think we're really looking at folks who are special needs or power dependent and likely wouldn't see that for a broader section of the community at this point. But we'll continue to provide updates. We're working with the National Weather Service. Obviously, we're working with all the local counties affected. But bottom line is, we're going to take Miami-Dade out. We're going to take a couple other interior counties in southern Florida out. We'll be adding a number of counties in the northern half of the state. And again, the most recent track is we're looking at impacts north of Citrus County, probably in that Dixie County area. And if we continue to see any movement beyond that, then obviously we will update people. We do not anticipate when it's in the Gulf of Mexico that this storm is just going to end up going west of Florida. That is not. Every single model is in agreement that once it's in the Gulf, there is going to be a movement back northeast, and we obviously anticipate that will impact the state of Florida. So we're ready for that, but we are, as much as you don't want to have to deal with these, the movement west, at least for this Surfside site, means that the impacts here should be incredibly minimal. May get some rain, you may get a little bit of wind, but nothing like we were looking at maybe a couple days ago with tropical storm force gusts. And with that, I'll introduce Kevin Guthrie, Emergency Management Director, and then we'll do the Surfside Mayor, Charles Burkett.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your leadership on this. Being able to respond to 2 incidents statewide at the same time is something we're very accustomed to, and it makes it much easier when you have your leadership, sir and ma'am. The only thing that I'll just kind of put an exclamation point on what the governor just said is I did talk to the state meteorologist. I did talk to Dr. Ken Graham at the Natural Hurricane Center. Both of them wanted me to let all of our residents know probably the most two significant updates we're going to get is at 11 o'clock tonight and 5 a.m. in the morning on the next updates. As it comes and emerges off the coast of Cuba, there could be the situation where the center may reform to the east or may reform further west. We just don't know what it's going to do when it hits Cuba. So again, as it comes off of Cuba, somewhere around 7, 8 o'clock tonight, they're going to try to get a really good forecast on it at 11 p.m. If not 11 p.m., 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. So again, if you watch the late night news tonight, pay attention to the forecast there. If not, see the ones in the morning on the latest updates. The last thing I would say is, again, do not focus on the center of this storm. Do not focus on the center of Elsa. It is going to start encountering some wind shear, and it's going to become, lopsided or asymmetrical, and it's going to push a lot of rain onto the east side of this storm. So again, be very cognizant of that, and make sure you look at all of the weather forecasts that come out in your local area. And again, I'll reiterate what the governor said. Please pay attention to your local emergency managers. They know your area best. They will order the evacuations based on what's going on in their county. Thank you.
Good morning. First, I want to thank the governor and the lieutenant governor for being here, and I want to correct a serious misstatement that I made recently. I said that the governor had been here very often, almost every day. That was incorrect. He's been here every day. So I want to thank him for that. I also want to touch on a couple things that I learned from walking the site this morning early and listening to the families at the morning briefing. We have rescue crews working now in 6 different places. We were back to work 20 minutes after the demolition was completed. The demolition was executed flawlessly, and the rescue team said none of the existing pile where there are victims still was affected. Heavy equipment is now being able to be employed in the rescue effort where before it was not. That's a significant change because now our men and women who are out there on the pile can utilize that equipment because we've got millions of dollars worth of equipment thanks to Florida Governor DeSantis and the Lieutenant Governor. We've got everything we need. Operations are now moving much faster than they ever have. The only remaining potential barrier is dangerous weather, which may or may not occur. Bad weather. The search and rescue will continue for 24 hours a day, bad weather accepted, lightning specifically. The search will continue for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until we pull everybody out of that rubble and reunite them with their family. Again, I want to thank the governor for his flawless support here. Surfside, Little Surfside really appreciates it. The fact that he's been here every day is amazing. He's got his staff here. The Dade County Mayor has been wonderful. As a matter of fact, I want to congratulate the Dade County Mayor for her decisive leadership with respect to the demolition. I met with the governor 2 days ago, and he and I talked about the need to bring this building down in light of the storm. There was the very real potential where this storm could have knocked the building down in the wrong way on top of that pile, which would have effectively ended the search and rescue. That message I delivered to Mayor Cava. All her experts had told her it would take 3 weeks. To her credit, she went back, she talked to additional experts, and she came back 12 hours later, and now we know what happened. The building's gone, the threat is gone, the work continues, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to be seeing some miracles in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Muy buenas tardes. El gobernador más tarde va a revisar la orden ejecutiva para añadir varios condados al norte. Tal vez en ese momento va a remover Miami-Dade y tal vez otros condados que no están ahora en peligro y con riesgo debido a la tormenta tropical Elsa. Sabemos que esto es algo que obviamente va a cambiar, ahora actualmente está encima de Cuba, pero cuando sale por encima de Cuba sabemos que todos los meteorólogos piensan que eso va a tener impacto directo a la Florida. No sabemos en este momento si será al norte de Tampa, pero vamos a seguir monitoreando y conversando con los expertos y por favor ténganse con respecto a lo que es el anuncio de las 11 esta noche, va a tener la información más actualizada. Sabemos que el edificio, ayer se concluyó lo que es la demolición, un día obviamente muy triste para los sobrevivientes de esta tragedia, pero muy necesario para seguir y continuar con los esfuerzos de rescate y búsqueda y también para ayudar lo que es el peligro y el riesgo que estaba corriendo nuestros rescatistas. Continuamos con la operación de búsqueda de rescate y sabemos que los que están trabajando día tras día, les pedimos que seguimos orando por ellos porque ha sido un esfuerzo muy difícil para ellos y les agradecemos a todos los que han venido a ayudar aquí a la Florida. Muchas gracias.
Okay. Take a couple questions. Buena. I don't know for sure on that. I can tell you that because that newly accessible area where it was, that happened to be where a lot of the master bedrooms are, that they have made identifications from there. I don't want to say all, but they really believe that they are going to be able to make, that the identifications will be able to accelerate now that they have access to that because of it had been inaccessible and then because there were likely a lot of people who were sleeping at that time, unfortunately, in that part of it. Yes, ma'am. So some of the people that survived, that left the tower, no, look, I think it's a huge issue. Obviously, the search is the priority because a building came down, we have people unaccounted for, and you got to find, you got to identify, and we obviously would have liked to have seen some folks rescued over these many days, and that has not happened yet, but the identification, the search has got to continue. Then you also have people who fortunately were able to get out. Well, guess what? We knew they were never going to be able to go back to that building. I would have loved for them to go in and get their belongings, but every single person said it's too dangerous, that you could potentially have people die if that were to happen. So obviously it wasn't worth that risk. We cannot lose any more people. And so the thought that was kind of the discussions were they're not going to be able to ever go into that again. And it potentially creates problems for the search effort, especially with the storm. So we're just going to have to deal with it. So you deal with it. The problem, though, is that people's lives were in that part of the building. And that's a tragedy, too. There's going to be everything from valuables to keepsakes. And now this was their home. Now, some people have multiple residences. That may not have been their primary, but some people, that was their primary. So how do you get them back on the feet? So what we're doing in terms of, obviously you have the FEMA individual assistance that we were approved for, so we think that that's something that needs to be done and is very important. But also all these private charities, there's a lot of people that want to help. You have the stuff that went to the support Surfside. You have the shul at Bar Harbor. You know, I've talked with other folks here in town. They've raised money in other vehicles, and so we're going to work to help that. And I can tell you this, if there's somebody that needs a place to stay, there's folks just on this strip who are going to put people up. I spoke with the owner of the Four Seasons. He's willing to put people up. They've raised money. So there is a lot of support. And I was just speaking with Charles Burkett about this. We need to, if people are generous, we need to make sure that money is getting channeled into these relief efforts. Now is like the most important time because it's the most difficult situation. Then obviously as you get beyond that, these are folks who, what their insurance, we want to make sure, I've spoken with Jimmy Petronas about making sure the insurance companies are responsive to these folks, particularly under the circumstances. So they're going to have insurance claims, and then there's going to be obviously other things in terms of making them as whole as you can from the loss of property. And you're going to have a lot of mental health impacts from people who are able to get out. Obviously, the families who lost somebody, that's going to be the most devastating. But I've spoken with a number of the folks who were able to get out. This is a really harrowing experience. And you literally have people that, had their unit been 20 feet another direction, they would have been in rubble. And so they're there, and their neighbor has never been heard from again. And so this is something that's very traumatic. So the mental health aspects are going to be very, very important. And this is something that is going to require long-term support. But I can tell you the support is there. Getting through some of the bureaucracy to channel that sometimes in situations like this, unfortunately, can be something that we have to do. But the support is there. This community, South Florida, all of Florida, and really people throughout the country have wanted to do it. And we were actually just speaking about ways, the mayor and I were just speaking about other ways that we can channel some of this generosity into relief efforts. It's great to have a FEMA, and it's great for them to provide individual assistance. But understand, that's a bureaucracy. There's certain things that you have to do. It's not as flexible. When we have folks, particularly in a community like this, that are able to step forward, if someone needs a hotel, you can have that. And longer term stays, they're willing to do that. So that's really important. So we're going to be working on that, doing that.
Can you walk us through the timeline? What can we expect next? And also, when does this become a search and recovery?
Well, the latter part I will leave to the fire department and Miami-Dade County. I will say this is ongoing. We've basically cleared, I think, a lot of the remaining hurdles. So you're going to see them working round the clock like they have been. I think they're going to make more and more progress. More and more things are accessible. As you look, because the building was brought down just according to plan, it basically fell into place. Why that's important is because you can now use heavy machinery to get rid of the rubble where we know that that was not part of the original collapse. Had that building fallen over the original pile, well then the evidentiary issues, the search issues, all of that would have been much more difficult. So they're going to be doing heavy machinery off Collins Avenue right there and on the sides. They're going to be moving that away, I think, pretty quickly. And then behind, of course, on the east side, you will then see the traditional search that will be able to now access every part of that pile, which they hadn't been able to do up to this point. So I think it's going to move apace. I think the momentum is very strong. A lot of those folks, they pulled a couple of the guys off the rubble when I went to see it this morning, and they said, yes, this is the area where we were not able to get into previously. We're there now. We think we're going to make a lot of progress. I got time for one more. Yes.
Yesterday we found out that half the Israeli contingent decided to stay after the decision for indefinite stay. Has the role of the 7 changed, or will they?
So the question's on the Israeli. What's the role of them going forward? They're on the pile now. I just was able to say hello to some of the folks that were going on in the next shift, thank them for their efforts. They're invested in this. And I think that, many of you who've been here for a while, I think you've gotten the sense of this, but these folks, when they get involved in this mission, this becomes very personal to them. They want to be able to get the answers. They want to be able to identify. They want these searches to continue. And I think that that's what you're seeing with the Israelis. They've been very, very helpful because they came in with a computer model of the building. They understood different rooms. They understood where it would make sense to search. And that information was used by our search and rescue teams to really help channel the effort in a positive way. So we thank them for their support. We think that they've done a really good job. And I think they're here because there's an emotional attachment now to Surfside for the people that have been involved in this mission. And I don't think you're going to see people want to get off that pile until we have all the answers that we need. And that's not just for the Israelis. I can tell you some of the folks in other states who have now come, we're taking care of them well. They're on the cruise ship. They're getting taken care of as they should be. But they're here and they really want to make a difference, and it's meaningful. And I don't even need to tell you about the Miami-Dade folks. I mean, this has been something that they've been, it's changed all their lives for sure. And this is just a mission that they're going to see through until the very end. I will probably not be able to make it back tomorrow given the storm. I think the weather is probably going to be nasty. It'll be probably difficult to fly. So we're still going to be here offering support with some of my staff. And obviously we'll be likely working out of the State Emergency Operations Center as we continue to monitor the impacts of Elsa. We do think, of course, we will start to see